See what I have behind me there? Those are 3 brand new 2025 Lenovo Legion Towers. We have the one there, which is the Legion 5 tower, Intel model. So I guess it's a 5i tower, or they call it a T5 is what they do. That one there has the Core Ultra desktop CPU, very cool. Of course, it has Blackwell GPU. That one right there is the T7 tower, so this, the step-up tower. That one also has the same type of mobile desktop chip there, but you can get the GPU up higher. So that one, for example, goes up to 5080. It's also a larger tower. And then here, you can see that one right there, that's the 5i tower or T5i tower. That one's mine, and that one has a mobile chip. So it has an Arrow Lake 275HX chip on it. Very cool. So there's a boatload of different configurations here, but these are actually 2 different SKUs. You can see they look very similar here, right? Intel, 5i. What's the difference here? So this one here is the one that I bought myself. You can see here there's some different SKUs here. So this one here comes with a mobile chip, 255HX. That's actually a mobile CPU. I use it on some of their Legion laptops, and what they do here is they take that mobile chip and then put it on a soldered motherboard. So you can't upgrade it, but it gives you excellent performance per watt. It runs very cool. This is the 255HX. I actually have a 275HX today, just so you know. I have the bigger one. There's just different configs here. That's fine. Like, they have all kinds in here. And just what they have on for the moment. We can go view models, for example. It looks like they're probably sold out of the other one. So you can get a 5070 Ti here. That price, actually, right now, there's a really good coupon, just so you know. And you use it, and it actually brings it down to 1,500 American. It's like, that's a really good price, honestly, for what it is. 32 gigabytes of RAM, and it's laptop memory. So you do have to buy laptop memory, but that's fine. You do get upgradable SSD, lots of slots in there as well. 850 watt power supply is actually a ton for that mobile chip and that there. Very cool. But then over here, there's a few different options still in stock. These are selling really well on the left, by the way, these soldered ones, because they're just excellent value. Over here, though, we do have upgradable. So you can get a 255, 265F. Both good. The 265 will be the sweet spot over here. A little bit more GPU options here. 5060, I wouldn't recommend that. 5060 Ti, unfortunately it's 8 gigabytes, so not a fan. And then we can go all the way up to a 5070 Ti. So this one here, right here, matches this one here. The CPUs are actually going to be pretty close in performance. 265F versus 255HX or 275HX. I'd still take this one. It's not upgradable, but this socket doesn't have like multiple upgrades you can do anyways. You can do a 285, but I wouldn't do that. And generally speaking, these are on sale a lot cheaper. Like, when you throw that coupon on here, it's $1,000 cheaper. There is other options. Another one that I have here today is I have the AMD model. This is the loaner. Lenovo sent this over here. It comes with multiple different options. You do get, we'll come in here, I'll show you what you can get, because there's actually a couple cool different options here. You can get the lower one, which I have today here, 7800 X3D, excellent CPU, especially for high FPS gaming, you know, at 1080p, that kind of stuff, and a nice 5070. This machine here is going to be geared more towards like esports gamers, that kind of stuff, because you're going to have that CPU there. It's really going to drive performance, especially at 1080p, and the 5070 will be easily able to keep up. So this is a really good option here. Of course, you can upgrade that CPU down the road, right? Same power supply, all that kind of stuff looks great. And then they have, this is the big boy over here. It's a little more expensive. It looks like it's on a good sale. 7950 X3D, excellent CPU. Technically, in my opinion, the second best CPU on the market for consumers, other than the 9950 X3D. I've had both. I have both actually right now. They're basically the same. So this is excellent. This will be good for people who are doing professional work like video editing, coding, graphic design, and also gaming, because the gaming performance between these is more or less the same, but you can also do professional stuff on here. They also give you a 5070 Ti. So you're going to be able to use that for video export with dual NVIDIA NVEC encoding. This will be much faster than this for video editing, and of course gaming. And there's one other SKU here, and that's the Legion 7 Tower. The Legion 7 Tower is the big boy. I never wanted to talk in the first place. This is the big boy. So these are the Legion 7 Towers. Yes, I will be reviewing this today as well. You can get a 5080, 5070 Ti, or 5090. The 5090, it's always sold out because it's such a good price, to be honest. But there is also a 5090 variant of this, and honestly, it's cheaper than building it yourself. They sent over, you know, the 5080. You can get the 5070 Ti, which is also fantastic. And you can see here, these come with big boy CPUs. So you can get a 285K or a 265K. This is on sale. So, I mean, if the price is the same, you might as well get the 285K. I still say for, you know, a lot of people, the 265K is a sweet spot. It's a really good CPU. I have it right now in a separate desktop. 5080 versus 5070 Ti. they're both good. I would say bang for the buck. You know, if you can get it on sale, obviously the 5080, but the 5070 Ti is where it's at, in my opinion. And then otherwise, you get, 850 watt power supply. The 5090 big boy is also going to come with a much bigger power supply, obviously, because it's a 5090. And like I said, the price goes on. I've seen the 5090 for cheaper than that. The hardest things about this is just going to be to like physically film them. They're also very reflective. You can see all my junk shelf behind me there. But they have reflective glass. This one has a dark smoky glass, the 5 tower. The 7 tower here has a little bit of a smoky glass, but it's less so. You can actually see inside of that very easily. In here, you can't see anything when it's off. It's very difficult to see inside. This is mine. This is the other tower, same idea. The chassis design has been changed this year. I'm actually going to stand up for this. The chassis design has been changed this year on the T5 towers, but not the 7. So the 7 is exactly the same chassis as last year, completely unchanged. I see no difference on it. We'll see when we get into it if there's anything beyond that, but I mean, they probably were just like, we don't need to. So let's actually start with the unchanged one. You can see there's that grill on the front there. It is actually intake. It's breathable, very good. On the side here, inside, you're gonna have a lot more room on the 7 tower than the 5 tower. You can get a bigger GPU, better cooling, all that kind of stuff. But let's jump into the 5 tower because that's the new one. So the first thing we'll look at here is the panels. They're the same on both of them, just like previous years in the 7 tower. You get a very robust, this is a thick piece of metal and a thick piece of glass. It's fairly heavy, to be honest, but it just gives it good rigidity and you do feel confident with it. Front here, there's no intake. There's just the weird like indent things, little convex things, a little weird. I don't know what that point of that is. No clue. I don't know, maybe for acoustics or something, I don't know. So anyways, there's no fans down here. I guess this front is just some kind of weird void for hard drives and things like that. So this should be for hard drives. I am curious how to take this out though. Okay, so I'm gonna take out the GPUs now and then we can have a deeper look at the motherboard. This here, they ship with, I really like how these are shipped, just so you know. They come with these brackets, which means that the GPU is not bouncing around in shipment. And I've ordered many of these and I've never had a single issue, and I've actually shipped them out. Like a couple when I was done with the review, I sent a couple to my friends. Well, they bought it. I'm not going to act like it was an act of charity. And yeah, I was just like, yep, these are going to be structured AF. And that way you don't need all this like foam and crap in here because the GPU is not going anywhere. To be honest, it's a good idea. Okay, so we'll take this one out. They do not have a PCI thingy to release. Okay, so let's have a look. This is the 5 tower. This is the 5i tower with the RAM. This is the 5i tower with the CPU you can upgrade. So a little bit different than the other one. We have one NVMe here, 2 NVMe here. So that's the first one with the operating system. There's a second slot here and a third slot. So you get 3 NVMe slots here. Fantastic. And you get 1, 2 SATA, 3, 4 SATA. So you're going to be able to put in 7 total drives, 3 of them being NVMe's, 4 of them being some type of SATA drives, so SSDs, hard drives, whatever. That's a ton of storage. Aftermarket boards don't necessarily support that. Upgradable Wi-Fi there, you can take that out. That's good. Another PCI, that's the primary one, very good. This one here, it uses standard desktop memory. It's running at JADEC speed, so it's not going to be, there's no point in putting 7200 megahertz or something in here, megatransfers per second. Doesn't make a difference. This cooler here is decent. I have cooled up to a 14700K in a last year's model with this cooler, and it runs decent. It's a big chunk of metal, good heat pipes, and the fan runs pretty well. This one's a little different because of the feeding of the cooling system is a little bit different. There's no fans on the front this year pumping air into this, so I'm not sure how well that's going to run. We'll have to see. The way it's designed this year is you have 2 fans on the bottom. Last year there was actually a strip along the bottom here with the power supply in the back, and so this was cut off, but you couldn't see that. And you had 2 fans on the front feeding into the system. It's different this year. So they took out the power supply from here, put 2 fans to feed directly into the bottom of the GPU. So that thing should run super cool as a result. This is the power supply up here, so they shifted it. So and the power supply looks like it's an intake there, obviously, and then it's going to exhaust out the top. So what's happening here is this is actually going to steal some of the cool air. These are actually intakes too. So the 2 intakes for the system are actually the bottom. We'll have to see how that runs. So there'll be 2 coming in to the GPU. The GPU should run super cool and it'll exhaust out. A little bit of the air is going to leak past, hopefully come up here and get sucked in to the CPU. I am actually worried about how cool this is going to run in this system here with the air cooler, because it's going to be really, only taking air from the bottom, and it's going to be competing against all these fans for air. I mean, you might even need to be able to take these out, to be honest. I don't really see much of a benefit to these top fans. Have those come up and just have the back being an exhaust. It'll suck in here, out there, a little bit there. You might even want to turn this into an intake. So there's air coming there, coming into the CPU and the power supply both. It's going to split. And then you can also have a little bit here. So I might actually suggest taking this one out completely, taking that one and flipping it as an intake, maybe even shifting it. So that'll put some air in here. But here's the nice thing about these. These are completely non-proprietary systems. What does that mean? Motherboard is a standard MATX. Standard socket, standard power, standard CPU, standard power supply, everything's standard. So if something goes wrong down the road, out of your warranty, 2-3 years out of the warranty, 4 years out of the warranty, you can swap parts, no problem. You want to upgrade, you can do it. I've met many times, I've upgraded the CPUs on these Legions, and it has no problem doing that. Upgrading the RAM, no problem. If the motherboard dies and you want to get rid of it, or you just don't want the motherboard anymore, maybe 3 years down the road, you're like, I want this cool motherboard. Take the motherboard out, get rid of it, put in a new motherboard and plug all the parts back in. It's all non-proprietary. It's such a fantastic thing to have non-proprietary parts. Isn't that shocking? Moving over, this is mine. This is the mobile one. I decided to get the interesting one. Now, this is quite a bit different. Same idea, fans are going to intake up here, exhaust, all that kind of stuff. This one comes with an AIO, which I think is going to make a lot more sense in this system than the fan, especially with this different intake, but we'll get to that in a sec. So, NVMe 1, NVMe 2, NVMe 3, they're just slightly different positions, but they're basically exactly the same. So you get 3 NVMEs, SATA 1, SATA 2. I don't see any other SATAs now. Why is that? Why is it that this has 2 SATA, 3 NVMEs, that one has 4 SATA and 3 NVMEs? PCI lanes, PCI lanes, PCI lanes. There's a mobile chip in this system here. It's a mobile chip. 275HX, behemoth for laptops, behemoth. And they can sometimes run hot. So being able to put in this system, with a freaking AIO, that a 275 is normally being cooled by a little Peasley laptop fan. So getting an actual AIO pump with 2 massive fans, this thing should run crazy cool in this and really be able to stretch its legs. But this mobile chip doesn't have the same number of PCI lanes. PCI lanes are like neural pathways between like RAM, GPU, storage to the CPU to actually make the system function. So it's sending some to the RAM, it's sending some to, where is it, the GPU here, sending some to these different storage, and it doesn't have an extra 2 left over to have another 2 PCI lanes over here. But that still gives you 3, 4, 5 storage devices, 5 storage devices. Very good. Whereas this one, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there. And that's just due to PCI lanes. So storage is absolutely critical for you. The desktop level chip is going to give you more PCI lanes. But I'm still pretty happy with that. I mean, 3 NVMEs and 2 SATA. They could have put 2 NVMEs and 4 SATA or something like that, but this is a better setup. Otherwise, they're very similar. Non-proprietary, right? So you're going to be able to swap out your power supply, swap out that standard AIO pump is standard, all that. Now, what is not standard here, yes, it's a standard ATX form factor, but remember how I said this is a mobile chip? Mobile chips, here it's using mobile RAM. So we have a 275HX socket to the motherboard. You can't take that off and swap it out. Not that you can upgrade it, I guess, like these over here, but these are still like end of life. I guess you could put a 285K in there or something like that. But I mean, that socket is no longer being supported by Intel after this. So, I mean, again, these chips are going to be good for many years. Very powerful. Here, you can't do that, but you do have to use laptop memory. Just be aware of that. So there's advantages and disadvantages. This right here is standard SODIMM. It does not list that it supports C-SODIMM, which runs faster. I'm going to test it. Anyways, I have some C-SODIMM. I have 2 sticks of C-SODIMM, 32, 6x6, 16 by 2. So I'll put that in there and see if it tests it. I have no clue if it will, but otherwise interesting. Now, the one advantage of this one is it does come with an AIO, as I mentioned many times. These aren't going to be a problem in this case because the air is going to come from the bottom out here, and it's going to go into other areas of the system and go straight into here and cool, right? Straight into there and cool. And the CPU in general should run cooler just because of what it is. So we're going to have air coming up, some going into the GPU, whatever's left over is going to go here, 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 and here. So that's fine. You could flip this around. You could just literally flip these around if you wanted cold intake from there and one exhaust, and then this is actually going to be exhaust. So you have exhaust, exhaust, intake, 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 intake. Lots of ways you could do it. So I'm going to give it a whirl like this. You can give it a whirl, and you know, if the GPU will run cool because it's going to get direct air. But if you find that you're like, oh man, these CPUs running a little bit too hot, you could always flip these around, ensure they're getting cold air. But I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. That's that. Now, of course, you do have the GPUs. Let's bring those out. I am a big fan of Lenovo GPUs. I have used many of them. Let's come up here. Now, let's actually look at the 7 Tower and show the difference there. Okay, and here's a look inside the 7 Tower, which is essentially unchanged from last year and maybe the year before. Definitely last year. You can see big behemoth in here. This is the 5080. You can get this up to a 5090, just so you know, which would probably be a little bit thicker. Might be this, we'll have to see. The 5090 uses a lot more watts than the 5080. But look at that robust design. It's lovely. NVIDIA GPUs from AMD, NVIDIA GPUs from Lenovo are fantastic. But let's get this out, we'll compare this motherboard. Okay, so here's how it looks with the GPU out. There is this Lenovo Legion plate here, which is a cooler, basically. 3 NVMEs, and look at that. So underneath there's 3 NVMEs. Looks like there's 2. I don't know how these are. Maybe they're in RAID or something. That's kind of cool. So you can get 3 NVMEs here, and you can get 1 more. So you can actually get 4 NVMEs in this one here. And then on here, you have 4 SATA. So in here, we can get 8 drives, 3 NVMEs, M.2, and we can get 4 SATA. On this one over here, we can get 3 NVMEs and 4 SATA, so 1 less drive. And then on the mobile one, we can get 3 NVMEs and 2 SATA. So we're going down, and that has partially to do with PCI lanes and that. Very cool, very good. Other interesting differences here. This one here has the liquid cooler as well, AIO. It's interesting that it's going to be a lot different. This is much more massive, right? So this has the 3-fan big boy. It's like a full contained unit. Whereas these, these 2 fans, the 5 towers, if you get a 5 tower with a liquid cooler, you get this style here, 2 fan versus 3 fan. This works as an intake, obviously, to the full system. Very cool. No fans on the bottom. No fans on the bottom for the GPU. So this GPU actually technically might be a little bit hungrier for air than these ones, because these, you have the bottom intake with no front intake. So on the 5 towers, with this one here, or this one here, your GPUs are actually going to be probably doing very well. But I'm a little worried about the CPU, not so much on this one, but we'll see. I might be a little bit worried about the CPU on this one because there's no direct feeding. Here, the CPU is going to be just fine. You're going to get a ton of air coming in from the front of the system here through that radiator. It's going to run super cool. And then some of that will be hot. We'll see. And then the GPU is going to get some of that. We'll see. We'll see how cool it does. The power supply is actually under here, so there's just nowhere to put cooling. Like that. So it's just a different design, more traditional design. Of course, you do have your exhaust. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how well this does. I mean, you could, again, you don't even have to have these to be exhaust. You could turn them around or something. Lots of different options you could do there. But we'll see how it goes. This is a more traditional setup. Again, standard RAM here, not running. They're going to run JEDEC speed, just be aware. Standard ATX motherboard now instead of MATX. And in this case, what we're going to see that's different here is we're going to end up with, larger here, a little bit more storage. You get all standard again, standard. I wonder where that wire is going to. Weird. I guess that's right at the front or something. Very cool. All standard. You get a full second PCI, so you can put a second GPU in here if you want. It's not a lot of room underneath that one, but you could certainly put it in there. Very cool. Very, very cool. And then on the back here, we'll flip this around. Legion 7 Tower here is a little bit more traditional in terms of the back. You have the power supply on the back here, just very traditional. 2 hard drive options here. Again, this one has more SATA ports. So I've had this tower before and I used it for a little while and I put in 2 hard drives. I actually tucked another SATA under there and I tucked another SATA there. No, actually I put them on here. I put double-sided tape on here is what I did. So you can easily get, 1 SATA, 2 SATA, hard drive. And then that's good. You have your 4 drives and you have all the ones on the board as well. Easy access to this kind of stuff. It's all standard, right? All standard here. So absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. And you have these fed through from Lenovo. So just plug them in. 2 of them to start with. You can probably put them in the hard drives or your SATA ports, whatever. The other ones you can high wire up yourself if need be. And the wiring, cable management all looks pretty good. Not bad. In between these towers, I'm going to set down these GPUs. I have a lot of experience with Lenovo towers and specifically their GPUs. Not only have I used many of their GPUs, also their towers, sorry, I've also even bought their GPUs. So I have experience with the 3050, 3060, 4060, 4070, 4070 Super, 4070 Ti Super, I think a 4080, but I can't remember if that's true or not. And I actually have a 4070 just on its own coming that I ordered. So that's going to be here. And they all kind of look very similar. And I like them. I personally think they look great. I'll like Photoshop the 4070 in on top of this. Very recently I had a 4070 Ti Super and a 4070 Super from them. My friend has the 4070 Super, I sold to him. And the 4070 is just a smaller one, a 2-fan kind of thing. So anyways, so here we have the GPUs. We'll put them down like that. There's not much to do here. I've taken them apart many times and just kind of dicked around with them. The 5070, like the 4070 and the 4070 and the 4070 before it, is a 2-fan design. So you end up with 2 fans. It's a clean, this is plastic, but it's just a clean little design there. Doesn't look, any weird or anything like that. I like it. It does come with these brackets, which you can take off if need be. Very nice. They feel fairly heavy, by the way. These are not light. They have a good heat pipes. This is just a 5070. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heat pipes. Oh, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 heat pipes in there. Decent density on the radiator. They use, all of the actual cooling in here looks good. I've had no issues with cooling on any Lenovo GPUs. They have a nice kind of OEM square look to them. I actually like them quite a bit, to be honest. I think they look fantastic. They run quiet and they run cool. That's nice. Of course, metal backplate, not plastic. So the only real plastic on it is just this front piece to obviously keep the costs down. 12 volt high power on all of them this year. My 4070 when it comes won't be 12 volt high power, just so you know. Very cool, looks nice. Very clean, aesthetic, and we'll see, how they run in the system, physically in the system. But I've run these in systems and also on my eGPU externally. None of them have noise issues and none of them had thermal issues from my testing. So that's the 5070. It's a 2-fan design, very clean. 5070 Ti is obviously a fair bit bigger, higher watt as well. It's pretty big, actually. This is, you can see here, this is just slightly over a 2-slot, 2.5 slot, I guess. The 5070 Ti is a 3-slot, like a true 3-slot. I guess technically it's a tiny bit bigger, but it's basically a 3-slot design, which is big for a 5070 Ti. I have had a 3-slot, and it was the PNY, but this thing's heavy. It's got a ton of weight on it. Lots of heat pipage again. Looks robust. I'm not going to take it apart. There's no need. This one's mine, so I could take it apart if I feel like it. But generally speaking, they're just very well designed. You just have a massive amount of cooling. It actually, you can see right through it as well. So some of the fan is going to blow into the actual things, and then at the back or whatever, and then the back one on these larger ones will actually blow right through the system, and you actually get some RGB in there, so it looks beautiful. We'll see when we get here. I've taken apart all the GPUs, like the 4070 Ti, which basically looked exactly like this. It was just a touch thinner. Very good. I'm not going to take apart Lenovo's loaner GPUs. That's kind of a dick move. Not that I'd break them, but whatever. That's the 5080. This is a big boy. Very big boy. I would love to see their 5090. I bet it's even bigger. But the amount of cooling on this, to be honest, the amount of cooling on all of them, like that's 5070. I have a 5070. I've had many 5070s this generation, and none of them were this heavy and this robust. There's a lot of metal on here, a lot of heat pipes, a lot of radiators, and it's just a big card, right? Very big. Not too long, but it's physically large. So, that's going to be a lot of cooling for a 5070 Ti. And I've had 2 5080s, and this is definitely heavier than them, and in terms of robustness, just generally more robust. Look at that. Lots of heat pipage as well, looking fantastic. Nice clean aesthetic. Thick ass, more than 3. It's a 3.5 slot. I don't know, is the 4090 going to be a 4-slot? Just literally a 4-slot? The back of the system could take it, but I just don't know where they would go. So I'm assuming it's a 3-slot, just going to hang way down. So it's a heavy boy. It's heavy, very, very heavy. They don't have any BIOS swaps or anything like that. But generally speaking, if you're worried about the quality of Lenovo's GPUs, just how they are, I have experience with a lot of them. And I say they are, personally, from my testing, objectively and subjectively, I think they are truly fantastic. And I think they are well worth your money. Honestly, if you're going to throw money at one of these systems, and you're like, man, how good are those GPUs? In my testing, they're very good. We'll find out in this video how they perform in these chassis, right? Like limited airflow and things like that, but we'll see how they perform. But anyways, so let's jump in now to the full review. Okay, and here's just a look at the RGB. So this is the first one. Of course, we do have RGB in the front. The fan has RGB. This can all be operated independently in Legion space. RGB on the bottom, there, and up top. Looks better this year. Yeah, you sacrifice a little bit of RGB on the front, but yeah, those down ones look pretty sick, to be honest. The 7 tower, same as last year. You get some decent RGB from the front. You can see all 3 fans in the liquid AIO cooler are RGB, so that looks cool. Legion lights up. From the inside, not as much, but that's okay. Legion there, Legion there. GPU lights up. Interestingly, I just noticed, on the 5070, there's no light on the GPU in that little void. There is a light here, I just have to turn it on. And there's a light here. So it looks like the 5070 Ti and above, you get lighting. This one, I just unfortunately forgot to turn it on, and the system is booted. Looks good though. Not quite as sleek because there's no cooling down here, but overall pretty sleek. The winner is actually mine. I win, friends. So that's the front. As you can see, the Legion on the front looks pretty cool. No fans, but it looks sleek. And then the inside looks pretty dope. Right, you get dual fan on the bottom, dual fan on the top, exhaust, the AIO, and the actual PSU, or a GPU. Looks sick. Honestly, it looks sick. I love when I win. But anyways, they all look cool, to be honest. I'm not the biggest RGB guy, but I mean, something like this, I can deal with that. Looks pretty sleek. Let's put the sides on though. I wonder that. It's going to be super reflective, but let's see how it looks like that. Okay, so here we are. I'm just going to do it in this format rather than a bar chart. That way I can walk you through it. So AMD machine with the 5070, Intel HX mobile chip with the 5070 Ti, Legion 7i Tower 285K with the 5080. First test was Final Fantasy Rebirth, 1440p, ultra presets, no scaling. And we can look at the CPU first. So across the board here, they're all acceptable. The AMD machine, I mean, the X80 stuff never runs hot, 46 watts, 67C, so nothing. The HX chip, it needs to work a little harder. Obviously, it's not as quite as CPU powerful in games specifically, but still 70 degrees at 75 watts, that's nothing. And then 54 degrees on the 7i Tower, even though it's higher watts, 97, but it's a bigger cooler. 2-fan AIO, 3-fan big AIO, so that makes total sense, to be honest. This one here only has an air cooler, but it's also using the least watts. So there you go. It's also using less GPU. So the GPU is going to be pulling less frames, meaning the CPU just doesn't have as much work to do, if that makes sense. GPU temperatures are good on all of them. 70 degrees at 190 watts on the 5070. That's great. 70 degrees at 275 watts on the 5070 Ti. That's great. 66 degrees at 232. Interestingly, that's lower watts than that. I guess maybe it just doesn't have to work as hard, I suppose. Now this game here is FPS limited. This is an FPS limited title. It can't go above 120 FPS. So I think this machine is actually maxing out the resolution, because you can see here we're hitting that 120, like on average, whatever. And the GPU is not pulling its full wattages, the 5080. So that's cool. You're able to max out. That's just literally the game engine of Final Fantasy VII. You cannot go above 120 FPS. You could probably mod it, but whatever. So it's able to max that out. Averages across the board are good overall. 90 FPS average on the 5070, 109 on the 5070 Ti, and the game is being maxed on the Legion 7 Tower, 120. So you can't go any higher. The lows are similar here, 62, 68, and 82, obviously, 55, 65, 76. So they're all good, to be honest. 1440p Ultra, no scaling. These are all excellent experiences. Of course, you know, they're going to scale fairly well. Pick the one you want. They're all great. And the dB under this scenario is pretty quiet. 40-ish from all of them. That's very good. If you don't know what a gaming laptop will sit on your lap at like 50 to 55. So way louder. These are barely audible in games, truly. Then I did Cyberpunk 2077. I did 2 resolutions, 1440p and 4K. So the first one here, we can see 69 degrees at 50 watts for the CPU on AMD, 68 degrees at 95 watts on the HX Intel, and 59 degrees at 115 watts. So again, that beefy AIO is really keeping those temperatures down, but they're all good. And Lenovo did a good job. They picked the right stuff for the right parts here. GPU, same idea, 75 at 236, 74 at 294, 73 at 325. These are very good GPUs. If you've never used an Lenovo branded GPU, they're fantastic. They're very well built. I mean, I showed it in this video. I love them. I've used all kinds of their GPUs. FPS now, this should scale fairly linearly at 1440p, 65 versus 88 versus 101. So this is definitely playable, but I probably wouldn't want to go below that. You know, you can get like a 5060 Ti or something like that. It's not going to perform that well. This is, you know, the 5070 is good for 1440p gaming, even native, as you can see here, and good lows. 88, that's better, to be honest. I mean, you're really going to be able to push a little bit further. And this is in Dogtown, by the way. And then obviously the 58 is going to push a little bit higher, but I mean, the sweet spot still kind of emerges there for this title. Then I dropped it all the way down to 1080p. The reason I did this is now we're going to get into a CPU heavy situation here. I just wanted to compare these two to one another. You can see here the dB is louder on the fan. Obviously the fan is really pushing because the CPU, you know, this AMD is going to really start pumping out frames here. So it's, the cooler needs to work harder. So it's louder. Here the doesn't, again, around 40 dB or so. It's just not working as hard. For some reason here I'm missing the GPU. I don't know. I just didn't write it down because I'm stupid. But you can see here the CPU here, CPU here is pulling only 58 watts. Here's pulling 124 watts. So the CPU is, you know, is getting hit a lot harder here with that 285K, obviously at 1080p. And then you can see here that the GPU, it's, you know, working fairly hard, whatever. Same idea. But look at the frame rate difference. So here, in this case, the AMD pulls ahead, which is exactly as we would expect. So here we go, you know, 125 average versus 106 average. 89 versus 96, But you can see we are pulling more frames on average on the 7600 MXT, which makes sense. I mean, here we're not going to be as GPU heavy on 1080p Cyberpunk. So this CPU here, it's better designed for low resolution gaming. Not really for professional tasks. It's not that great, to be honest, but for low resolution gaming with that 5070, you're going to be using the CPU very well. And you can see that even though there's a 5080 versus a 5070, 5070 and 7800 X3D is able to pull ahead here without any issues at all. But at higher resolution gaming, if you're going to be doing, you know, 1440p or 4K, you know, these two machines start to make more sense. So part of it is budget. The 7800 X3D and 5070 machine here is definitely lower cost and not as well suited to 1440p and especially 4K gaming, but it'll get the job done. But it is very well suited to 1080p, obviously. These machines here, these two here, are going to be much more suited for 1440p for sure, and even 4K as well. Of course, there's the 5090 over here. You can get that. I don't have it, but that's going to be a true 4K machine. But these ones here can still do 4K with a tiny bit of scaling. 1440p, they're going to absolutely tear. And the 5070 can still do some 4K gaming, but you're definitely going to have to use scaling because you can see here, even at 1440p, we're getting close to that 60 FPS mark. So, you know, bump this now up to 4K, and all of a sudden you go down to like 45 FPS. So all good, to be honest. I'm very impressed with all of these machines. Okay, so here we are in the system. It is completely silent. I was using it last night. Today's the next day. I've been using it quite a bit. And now what I'm going to show you here, now of course I'm going to compile all these results after, but I just want to do a little bit of live testing, just a little bit of live example. Otherwise it's just boring when you have a bunch of screens up and then, you know, spreadsheets, and that's all. So you can see here, right, we have our system here. Look at the idle wattage. 17. It can actually go lower too, right? 13, 11, 10. I don't think it's going to go below 10, but it should be between 10 and 15. And that's the thing. These mobile chips offer such good performance, right? You're not idling here at 50 watts. You're not idling here at 40 watts. You're not idling here at 80 watts. None of that. Your idle is so low. And so as a result, the system doesn't need to do anything to keep itself cool, just idle, right? Just hanging out. It's like, what is 15 watts to cool? Honestly, like an actual AI, it was nothing. 41 degrees. The fans aren't doing anything. It's just hanging out below 40. And it's hot in my office, by the way. I don't have AC. It's 30 degrees outside. It's about 27 degrees in here, probably something like that. So, okay, maybe not. It was at 19. That went back down. Okay, I was wrong. So yeah, I mean, you're sitting at 15 to 20 watts of actually, when you're actually using the system, right? Obviously not gaming or doing heavy compute. But as a result, it's so quiet. I wish that the guy's stupid air conditioner was turned off outside. Actually, I have a clip that I filmed last night. And if it has audio, I don't know if it has audio, I was just messing about. And if it doesn't have audio, I won't use it, but if it does, then I'll show it. But it's so quiet. Should get a score around 39 to 40,000. Wow, and I'm even doing things. Like I have this running, I'm messing about here. Yeah. 37,000, yep. Now watch this. Watch this. Okay, so we'll come in here. Let the system go up. Now it's actually going. And last night I was doing multiple runs and I was getting 40,000 on this thing. 40,000. That's like desktop 9950X level performance. You can see that here. Oh, you can't see it. Throttling. Now the fans are going. Usually it takes like 1 or 2 whole runs of Cinebench to get the fans to do anything. So it's not going to be a case where the system, right, like it gets loud, by the way. It's not going to be a case where you just do something very briefly and the system gets loud, because it's a mobile chip. It drops watts so fast, it cools down so fast. Already we're down to 50 and the fans are basically off. So when you're under full load here, yeah, it can get loud, to be honest, but it takes a moment to kick up and get noisy. Now the fans are starting to go. It can be noisy under full load. Now again, we're under performance mode here. There's different modes. And these actually work. This is Legion space. You have performance mode, balance, and quiet. Now, performance mode, if you can see here, it's fairly small, but we're actually working with about 223, 230, and it'll sit around there. And the Cinebench will just keep going and going and going, and you'll have no problems there. Very good. You can also come down to balanced here and listen to the noise drop down. $223, now we're down to 177. Should sit around 165 to 175. That's what I've seen yesterday. Immediate noise drop. Immediate. Should stabilize eventually. Yeah. 47, ripping on balanced here at 150 watts. I mean, it's just not hard to cool. We'll go down to quiet, it'll drop even more. I believe it goes down to about 130-ish, 125 to 130, if I recall. Yeah, should sit around 130 is my guess. And with quiet mode, it's actually very quiet. Remember my noise floor? 34.5. It's barely audible. Now this is the type of sound when I had like what I would consider a quiet system on idle. It would be like this, like a quiet system. This is how I would consider it to be. And the scores will still be pretty damn good, honestly. So what we'll do is we'll come here, we'll go quiet mode, and we'll do a full run here and see what we can get. And for performance mode, if you just let it run all the way through, I'll flash that up on the screen. You do get about 39 to 40,000. I actually did it because I was in the Legion Discord talking with some people and they were curious, so I put in the scores in there. Quiet mode here, you should still get a reasonable score, but we'll see. Boom. Okay, so even on quiet mode, we're still at 29,000, 30,000. It's damn good for basically 100 to 130 watts. It's really good. Okay, let's stop that again. Come into balance mode again. Give it a second. Okay, we'll run it. I do like that it has a fairly gentle fan curve too. I'm happy that it's not like immediately the fans are going when you run the CPU. It lets it get a little bit warm, then it kicks in. Otherwise you'd have like woo, woo, woo. And we don't get that here. You actually need to run the system for a little bit before the fans really start to kick in. And even the kick in of the fans is it ramps up. Boom, look at that. 33,000 on balance, and it's pretty quiet. Honestly though, it's so powerful. Okay, so here we are on the Legion Tower, Legion 5 Tower that has the desktop chip. You can see here we were provided with the 7800 X3D. Very good AMD chip, obviously. You can actually get this tower with the 7950 X3D as well, if needed. It's your call. If you're just doing heavy gaming workloads, obviously, that's going to be pretty ideal. RAM, 32 gigabytes. It's not going to be running super quick or anything like that, but RAM's not going to be running super quick or anything like that. It runs at JDEC speeds. It's kind of just one of the negatives. Western Digital SN740 in this one. Fantastic. Realtek 616 Wi-Fi. No problems. And then this one has the 5070. So this one will be interesting because, I mean, it has not necessarily a more powerful CPU, not really at all. But it does have a weaker GPU. However, the CPU is more capable if you were playing at, for example, 1080p, because it has 3D cache. So there might be some games when you're playing at a low resolution where it'll actually outperform, obviously, and get more frames specifically because of that 3D cache. What I'm curious here to do is the cooling. So this one has an air cooler. Honestly, the 7800 X3 doesn't really run that hot in the first place. So we'll kind of see what we get here. Noise as well. At idle, there is no noise. Not really any sound. Give it a sec here. Now, the scores on this one are going to be obviously significantly lower. This is not a multi-thread monster like a 27, not a multi-core monster like the 275HX or anything like that. It's not designed to do that. It's meant for gaming, very much for gaming. You can still do pro tasks, but it's very much a gaming PC, gaming CPU. No real throttling here. Wattages look pretty standard, 75. Yeah, it's pretty standard. Scores look okay, 16,416. That's, as far as I remember, that's about similar to what I got on my other systems that I've had 7800 X3D, typically with air cooling as well, so that's fine. I'm curious what balance is going to do here. So 76, go balanced. Oh, it does actually decrease the watts. Not a ton, just 5, but it's quieter. Interesting. So this is balanced. It's actually getting quieter and quieter. But it's getting hotter as well. So it went down by 5 watts, but it's much quieter. Put it back into performance. In theory, the fans will go more. Watts jump up only a few, but I think the fans go more. So it's actually not really affecting the wattages that much, maybe just a few watts, but what it is affecting is the fans, the fan curve. So balanced will actually run quieter, but it will not run as fast because it's actually going to throttle. Okay, it's not that loud. I mean, just fan noise. Definitely very audible on performance. So going on quiet. Watts are down a fair bit more now, 60. Still going down a little bit. Yeah, 15-ish watts lower, 16 or 17 watts lower on quiet, and it's very quiet now. But again, running a little bit warm. It says it's throttling, but that's not a throttling temperature. Yeah, so if you do want it to be quiet and you just want to get reasonable CPU performance, you know, you're not going to be ripping performance in heavy code compile or something like that, you could certainly go with the quiet mode here. When we get into gaming, obviously, I'm going to let it go a little bit more. Just kind of curious what score it gets when I'm just messing around with performance. Yeah, it went down a little bit. I mean, these chips are fairly efficient, and we only dropped 15 watts. Like percentage-wise, that's not huge. But let's fire up some games now. Okay, so here we are on the Legion 7 tower. Now, this one has a very powerful 285K. Obviously, it's going to be more likely to run hot, but it also has a 3-fan AIO, so we'll give it a whirl. Idle is non-existent other than outdoor noise. It's very quiet. I can hear it that it's on, but that's about it. That's about my noise floor right there. Very quiet. I can hear that there's fans on, but that's it. There's no real like actual sound. Incredibly quiet. Okay, so we'll come in here. We'll run this. Again, we're under performance mode. There. Run that. We can try the other modes and see what they do, but let's see. So performance mode. I'm expecting fairly high watts here. 240. It's funny because it's actually not going much higher than the 275HX mobile chip. It really shows you how far these mobile chips have come, to be honest. Very good score though, obviously. 39,000. It's actually no faster than the 275HX. Isn't that impressive? Let the fans go here. Maybe get a little bit more oomph. Now the fans are going. Now this system is definitely quieter under performance mode than the other two because, I mean, you have a larger 3-fan AIO over here, right? So you have the same type of liquid cooling design, but the AIO here is a 3-fan, comes all the way down. So the whole front, they're big. It's a big cooler. So as you'd expect, it doesn't have to work as hard under the same wattages. So here, I mean, we're looking at similar wattages to the 275HX, which is fascinating to me. And actually similar scores with a bigger AIO. So I mean, yeah, I mean the 275HX is getting the same scores with a smaller cooler. I'm telling you, these mobile chips these days, my friends, these mobile chips, they're interesting. So we're at for balanced here. That actually did absolutely nothing. Oh, there it goes. No, maybe not. That might have just been the thing resetting. Interesting. It's not actually doing anything. Okay, it's going to quiet. Okay, now that did something. Not a ton. Where are we going to stabilize that here? I mean, it is down 25 to 35 watts, 170 from like 205 to 15. So I mean, it is pretty quiet now. Not much louder than it just when the system was on. Now let's do a run here. I'm just curious because I've never actually tested any of these Core Ultra desktops. So let's run this here. Let's see what we get on silent mode for a single run. I love how it says it's throttling. It's just not even close. Hardware feels so weird. I think it has something to do with the way the sensors are read in these performance modes. They just read a little bit different. It didn't, I mean, it still lost some. We went from 40,000 down to 3650. So, I mean, we did lose 10% performance, but it's much quieter. Put it back on performance. I mean, these CPUs and that are so powerful nowadays, unless you're running some like 1080p super high refresh gaming. Yeah, I mean, it's much louder. Oh, it goes higher, yeah, so it's 25. So yeah, we're looking at 50 to 55 watts between performance and silent. I mean, it's not yeah, that's about right. Yeah, it's not something that's that you shouldn't consider. It's actually pretty significant, actually. So